So as I mentioned before, the key difference between Knuckles' boss fights from Sonic's in general is that his jump sucks, and this changes up the bosses a lot. And you can see the result right here. Knuckles can't really jump all that high in this boss fight, so he's pretty much forced to spin dash on the walls and jump off them. He's not able to jump high enough to dodge this guy when he goes underwater. So he pretty much has to spin dash on the walls. I mean, he can jump up to hit him from when he's standing on the water, but... And this boss fight is absolutely unplayable as Knuckles, because he never lowers to the ground. And as I mentioned before, trying to rely on these things to bring you up to him is completely unreliable for me, because the explosions can hurt you. You can get hurt when you're standing next to the water as it rises up. So this is the only opportunity you get to jump into him. So if I was playing this boss, I would be playing it really safe and not using these things at all. So for this boss, what you've got to do is you've got to stand on top of the spiked pillars. And he tunnels into the wall. It rains down stuff on you, and I'm guessing it's another situation where it's only the falling spikes that hurt you, while you're immune to the boulders. It doesn't look like there's much room to dodge when you're standing on top of the spiked pillar. This boss is pretty difficult too. I'm guessing if you walk into those gray things, you get hurt. And they just suddenly appear from the ground. So you don't know where they're going to show up until they show up. I'm not really sure what decision drove Eggman to build the Egg Robo in the first place. I mean, surely he would have known that a robot based on himself would backfire on him and start making his own evil plans. And it's also kind of confusing that such a concept didn't go beyond one game. Like, you think the Egg Robo would appear in a lot more games. Instead, we're more likely to see Eggman and Nega, which is an alternate dimension version of Eggman, basically. The weird thing about Knuckles' story in Carnival Night Zone is that in at least one of the acts, he doesn't have a boss to fight at all. And it's really short for Knuckles. Pretty short and fast. Like, it's weird, he's completely spared from that boss fight. I guess they didn't have enough time to make up a brand new one, and they didn't think that Knuckles would be able to beat it because he jumps too terribly. This boss fight looks pretty much the same. As usual, it's really annoying when you get frozen. It doesn't even seem to be made all that harder from his jump. This boss fight is really annoying because there's two of them at once facing you. So you're twice as likely to get hit. But again, just jump at the sides when the spike balls are at the top and bottom of them, and you'll damage them. And I guess it's safer to jump at it to attack it when the spike balls are not rotating around them. This boss fight drags out. And again, more proof that Knuckles' story takes place after Sonic's, because there are two of them here, and Sonic fought one of them. So Knuckles is fighting the other two. this boss fight seems to be pretty much the same. Although again, it's not nearly as... Like, Knuckles can't... Well, he bounces off enemies. He doesn't bounce off them by you tapping the A button when you're on him. You just jump into a boss, and then you keep holding the direction of him so that you don't get bounced back too far. He doesn't have the insta shield, so its boss fights are pretty harder as Knuckles, and not just because of his low jump. So boss fights tend to take longer. And this boss fight is a lot more annoying as Knuckles because it has a very small hitbox. There's a very small portion of it that you're able to jump into safely to attack. Although I don't think it's nearly as bad as the final boss of Sonic 2, where you can't even tell which part of it you're allowed to jump into, because there's spikes literally everywhere. And again, it sucks that the sky isn't dark, because this is supposed to be a really hard, epic boss, but it doesn't have that atmosphere to it. Some of the Eggmobiles are different, and some of them are pretty much the same as Eggman's. It looks like Knuckles' low jump makes it even easier, because he's less likely to jump into the spikes on the top of it. Knuckles has to deal with this too. And yeah, as I mentioned before, Eggman suddenly shows up, and I don't know if there's Egg Robo sprite for this in the code, or if they just ran out of time. And it looks like he's a lot more willing to throw fire in Knuckles' version of this. And it keeps on shooting fire even as it goes up. But because Knuckles has a really low jump, it's a lot easier for him to jump into Eggman without jumping so high that he hits the fire. His low jump makes it easier for him, ironically enough. And as I mentioned before, when Knuckles goes to Sky Sanctuary Zone, he doesn't really have to go through a level, it's just a boss fight. You probably remember, but Mecha Sonic wasn't completely destroyed the last time we fought him. He just shut down, and then he fell away. And this is what became of him. Egg Robo found and repaired him. And then I guess he reprogrammed him to be loyal to him. It's either that, or he has free will and he chose to turn against Eggman for abandoning him instead of coming to retrieve him. This looks to be just as easy as the last time you fought him. But he has a trick up his sleeve. That's right, he uses the power of the Master Emerald. And you can't attack him at all when he's flying around invincible. You just gotta dodge his energy ball attacks. And the only time you can attack him is right before he jumps onto the Master Emerald. So it looks like just a boring wait around boss where you dodge its attacks. It's good to start spin dashing right when it starts firing energy balls at you, because it takes such a long time to accelerate to a quick speed from a standstill in the classic games. So it's safer to just spin dash. Super Knuckles, even if you get Knuckles' good ending, he doesn't go into a supersonic section. There's no Doomsday Zone for Knuckles. And this part always confused me, because Angel Island is floating in the background, but isn't Sky Sanctuary Zone supposed to be part of Angel Island? Why is Angel Island separate from it in the background? And why isn't Tails in that plane? That makes no sense. Why would Sonic go to save him? Was Tails at home sick? And if so, why wasn't Sonic taking care of him? And it can't be just wish fulfillment, because this story is canon. Why was the Master Emerald on Sky Sanctuary Zone, which is apparently a floating island separate from the Angel Island? why was it in Sky Sanctuary Zone? And then they bring it to Angel Island Zone, and it starts rising up even more. I mean, that's not at all consistent with what later games establish as part of the lore. Part of the lore is that the Master Emerald is on Angel Island. It's not on Sky Sanctuary Zone at all. Sky Sanctuary isn't even mentioned until Generations. So this is the bad ending. Mecha Sonic has the Master Emerald. It's only if you have all of the Chaos Emeralds that he's able to be strong enough to lift up and hold the Master Emerald. Okay, so I guess it makes him even stronger, but in later games, Knuckles is clearly shown to be strong enough to carry the entire Master Emerald without a super form. Like in Sonic Adventure 2, he picks up and carries the entire Master Emerald after defeating Rouge in a fight. So, this is just another case of them making it arbitrarily a bad ending. You don't have all the Chaos Emeralds. I hate that about the 2D Sonic games. I think that's one of the things that Mario games have over them. And then Knuckles died from oxygen deprivation because Angel Island went too high up in the space, and oh, that's not what happened. Never mind. Seriously, like, why does that happen? And Super Knuckles is pink, which looks really stupid. I can understand why they didn't bring back the super form for him. And you probably didn't expect this, but you can actually attach other game cartridges to Sonic and Knuckles. If you attach Sonic 2 to it, then you can play through Sonic 2 as Knuckles. And ironically enough, when I play through it as Knuckles, I find it pretty tolerable. Like, I don't like Sonic 2 at all, because as I mentioned before, it's really cheap, the badniks are annoying, and the level design isn't nearly fast enough to be enjoyable, and I don't like the platforming enough either. But when I'm playing it as Knuckles, I actually have a pretty okay time. I mean, it's not like every level I can just glide over everything. But I don't know what is it about it, because Knuckles is my least favorite character to play as in the classic era, but for some reason, when I'm playing Sonic 2 with him, I like it more. I especially love when I play Casino Night Zone's boss with Knuckles, because he breaks that boss in half. Like, you can climb on the walls and then glide over to the boss, and he just keeps on attacking it, and with no problem. I got all the way up to the final boss of Sonic 2 in Knuckles and Sonic 2 on the Sonic Classic Collection for the DS. And then I gave up, because even with Knuckles' low jump, you still can't beat the final boss of Sonic 2 without jumping into it and dying. So fuck that. I gave up. So connect Sonic 1 to Sonic Knuckles, and you get this. And again, I love this music. You get infinite blue spears. This literally goes on forever. So, if you're a huge fan of the special stages, then this is the game for you. There was an issue with Knuckles' color palette. That's why the game developers weren't able to put Knuckles in Sonic 1. ROM hackers were able to do it just fine though. See you in the next part.